All right, Evangelos Ligeros, my good old friend. How's it going, buddy?
Great, George. Great to
And
see you.
it's so good to see you. It's been a long time, obviously, since our run in politics took an end in 2018, and since then we haven't really seen each other. We've spoken a little bit, but we haven't really seen each other. I'm glad to see you, buddy. You're looking good.
Thank you. You too. And you know something, I just want to really thank you for the past, which meeting up with you from the first time we met, and when we did the say no to drugs at the Chong Lee Taekwondo event, and I came to meet you first, and you're a big part of that, helping us to make that happen for the community. You know what I mean? Because we've always symbolized dites no à la drogue, say no to drugs. Our event has always it's been very important to us. For me, my wife, my father-in-law, we really promoted that a lot. It's very important for the kids' future that I believe drugs leads to a bad end, and we got to be against that.
No, no, absolutely, man. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because we're seeing a few things happening even locally in that sector in Montreal, and I want to attack that too. But look, man, this is what I love about this podcast because it brings to the forefront people that are working tirelessly behind the scenes. That people, obviously, in your area, they know you very well, and we're going to go through everything you've done. Like, I mean, you're very well known in the Taekwondo world,
Thank you.
but the community doesn't really know who's behind, what's happening behind, and this is the whole purpose of this podcast to bring these people that I had the pleasure of working with and collaborating with over the years to the forefront and to kind of shed some light on what's happening and the good stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of bad things that are happening in our communities, obviously, but there's tremendously good work being done, and you guys have always been there proving that, right? So for me, it was a huge pleasure to work with you guys, and it only made sense for us
Appreciate it.
to partner up with you guys and to help you along your journey. Um, Before we get to that, man, how are you? How's the family? How's everyone doing?
Something, everybody's good. As long as everybody's healthy, everybody's okay. That's the most important. The last few years were a bit rough. Like, I'll be honest with you, the last 5 6 years. I mean, as you know, my father-in-law, Grandmaster Chong Lee, that's my wife's father. He had passed away, and he had cancer leading up to that, and that was a very difficult time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't really show it because, but inside, it's really hurting, especially when you know somebody for. I've been doing taekwondo for almost 40 years, and I started at my father-in-law's school, and we became partners later on, and at the school, I married his daughter, his grandchildren are my kids, and it was difficult. And last year, my father passed away from Alzheimer's,
All right.
and that was like about 6 7 years process that he went through. But I still believe, something, we got to stay positive, and we got to go forward. There's a lot of things that happen in life that aren't necessarily good, not necessarily positive, but at the same time we got to look at them in a good way,
Right.
because we're here on this earth for a temporary time. All of us, we're all going to the same place, and I believe people have innate good in themselves. People are good. I believe people make mistakes. People hurt others. They do things, but I believe people are good deep down inside, and I believe that as we're going through this life, we have to learn. We have to improve. We have to reach the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the reality. We
Absolutely,
make
man. Absolutely. And I think this last year specifically, I mean, you've had this challenging time for a number of years dealing with the issues in the family, but especially this last year, I think for everyone has kind of been an eye opener in the sense that we don't all get to witness the difficult times, right? I mean, you're going through difficult times, I may be going through difficult times, but it hasn't been this generalized in years, right? So now we have this pandemic that has affected the entire world, and of course there's a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of good things that have come out of this, right? I mean,
exactly,
we've seen this
exactly.
wave of solidarity, people wanting to take care of each other, looking out for each other. I hope, obviously, like everyone else, that this whole thing just goes away as soon as possible. But at the same time, I also want this this sentiment that we've built for one another to remain.
For
And
sure,
I think that's a good thing. So
I
I agree
agree.
with you 100%. You always have to look at the positive, and this has been one terrible year for a lot of people. I mean, I'm
But
sure.
it's good also, I'll be honest with you. Like, yes, if you think about all the hardships everybody's going through, yeah. But at the same time, listen, if everybody's healthy in your family, it's all good.
Yeah,
You know something? There's always a solution. We got to focus on the solutions. The problems will be there always, but we got to focus on solutions.
right.
And that's what it just, it grounds you. You do a lot of self reflection. You think about everything in your life. You know, the last, I'd say 6, 7 years. There's times it was down. It was hard. You know, it's hard to be positive sometimes when you see people that you care about. You're my own dad, and you know you see them. Alzheimer's. I never spoke about it. I talk about it right now. I never even mentioned it on Facebook that my father
Yeah,
passed away from that, and it's very difficult to see somebody that was so sharp and you see them slowly. My father used to have the best memory ever. He could remember. He was a high class waiter. He was a very good man. He was a very good man. I have so much respect for my father, you know, and my mother too. They're great people, and you know my mother is like, you know, she's amazing. You know, they're old school. They would tell you direct, which I love. That's what I love about Greek families. A lot of times they're so direct. Sometimes it hurts a lot, but you know something? There's nothing like this. It's
I don't know.
boom.
Look,
They tell you,
you know what they say, right? Tough love is still love. So
oh no, yeah. I learned something from my brother a long time ago when he had his kids. I hadn't had kids yet, and he told me, you know, if you love your kids, you're gonna tell them no.
yeah,
And you know, listen, I made plenty of mistakes, and I continue to do. We're not Nobody's perfect, but I know one thing. I just want to, especially after this year of reflection and the last few years. You know, you know, sometimes when you're down, you could be not all there in the sense of like your mind is not in the right place. But I'll tell you one thing is that you reflect more and you think about it, and you just want to be the best version of yourself. And I think everybody wants that. I believe everybody has greatness inside of them.
yeah.
Everybody, everybody.
Have you always been like this, man, or is this through the longevity that you've had in martial arts, and this is just the result of the teachings and the discipline and everything that comes out of that world?
Listen, when you associate with, over the years, I've associated with many great masters that I've had over the years that came through my father-in-law school. My father-in-law, just being side by side with him over the last 20 years, teaching with him, being with him, going to international events, national events, seeing it, there's nothing more than, I mean, his experience. He's the founder of Taekwondo in Canada. And I growing up, I believe every child, when they're growing up, they're very optimistic. They all have. You see the little kids; they shine, huh, when they talk. It's
Yeah,
amazing. That's why we look at little kids and we see this. You see them shine. Like my kids, when daughters, when they're getting in their starting. My second youngest is gonna be in her teens this year, and you look at them and you're so proud. I'm so proud of them. Like I couldn't be more proud. My kids are really good kids, and that's, as a parent, you want your kids to be good. You want them to do their best. You want them to be strong, you want them to be tough, but you want them to be very kind
right.
and to be good people and
Yeah,
to care about people, to be loving. And if they have that, you've done your job as a parent. And if you leave tomorrow, you say, listen, they're very confident in themselves, they're very strong. You want that for them. And I'm sure you do the same too,
uh,
George. Like if we do that, we've done our job. If you see them, and like I have students that when I see them not only succeed in Taekwondo, that part is nice. Even if whatever their goal is, some people it's to get in shape, some people it's to learn how to defend themselves, some people it's to be very confident. Whatever it is, it's all good. Some people it's to become a champion.
right.
They're all important, and all those people are great regardless of what they do. Sometimes when I was younger, first time, in my early 20s, or even when I was younger than that, you win, you think it's so important. I'm a champion. Yeah, it is, don't get me wrong, it is. But the thing is, when you grow older and you realize that everybody's great,
Hmm.
and it's not just, some people, listen, the guy's great parents. He's a great dad. He's great at what he does at work. He's great at whatever, And that I find is the best mentality, because when you look at people as, well, everybody has greatness inside. Sometimes as we're growing up, even in high school, sometimes people, the word, it's not a good at the worst is when people lower others to bring up
Right.
themselves. And sometimes people bring up themselves and they want to show, hey, I'm this and others are that, But that's not wrong, but at the same time, it's not the best. The best way is to see the best in others and see them as yourself. Because I believe God made us all great, and we all have that greatness, but people have to learn how to release it. And sometimes people have blockages, mental blocks, negativity, the way they talk to themselves, the way they talk to others, the bad habits. And, I've done that too. Everybody has that. But the thing is, when you realize it as you get older, I'm turning 50 this year. So even myself, like this year, is I want to get the same shape almost that I had before when I was younger. I want to hit that because as we're getting older, it'll be harder to go back. So I go before 50. I told my kids, I go, have to be that, or I'll give you a free full power kick to my body. So it kind of puts more pressure on me to do that. So at the same time, I think we have to be the best version. And as long as we're on this earth, we have to be in excellent shape, not just to take care of ourselves, but to take care of people around us and to enjoy life. We have to enjoy life, have fun and enjoy it, because it's not always easy. Let's be honest. It's not always easy, but if we come in with a good attitude, which is not always easy to have, that's why it's important to be with good people and people that they're happy for you when you do well. And they're also, if things don't go well, they're there for you too.
Right. How old were you
So
when you started?
when I started, I was about 12 years old. About 12 years old when I started Taekwondo.
Okay. So for everyone listening or watching, we're talking about Chong Lee Taekwondo, and you did mention that Master Chong Lee was the one that introduced Taekwondo to Canada. But we're gonna
Yeah,
get to that. But for you, what was it? What was it that that element that told you I want to go into martial arts? This is there's something that interested me. Did you see something? Did you watch a movie? Was
yeah, I think it's a mix of all those things. I'll be honest with you, and having my older brother and my older cousin too, and they when you're like 3-4 years younger than them, and when they hit puberty and they're like 14, they're like men and you're a kid. So sometimes you get it, eh? You get it from them, and you get tougher because of that. Sometimes you don't like it, but the truth is, all these experiences, whatever it is, when you look at it back at it, it's the best. It makes you tougher. It makes you stronger. Sometimes we don't like it. We cry
Mhm.
because your brother or cousin are tough with you and whatever. And my cousins and actually my brother was a big part. He was interested always in martial arts. He did a few martial arts before. He even did taekwondo. He reached until red belt, almost before black. But he was working a lot. He had other responsibilities. So he's always been he takes care of us. He's always been in good shape. And the support of my family, was a big part of it. My sister, even my cousins, my aunts, my parents especially. And in the beginning they weren't that supportive because my mother was like, "What, I'm going to make you into a fighter?" And actually they did
Yeah.
that. They did that in one sense, and I believe that with time, my cousins were. I had three black belt cousins from my cousins from Kingston. They were black belts in karate, and they were really tough boys. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, even if they were in Taekwondo, they would have been elite national team members if they had really stuck with say something like that. But they were very, especially like all three of them were really tough. And my brother, I mean, my cousin, same thing. But you learn, you pick up on those things, and it makes you stronger. Sometimes when you see that and they're rough with you, it might affect you in a certain way, but it gets you tougher.
So naturally, you had this kind of example that you were looking up at, and you just follow that pattern. You get into Chong Lee Taekwondo. Did you ever imagine, as you were doing this, that 40 years later, you would be the face of this, this incredible institution? And we're not talking about only in Montreal or Quebec. We're talking about across Canada, and we're going to get to that to talk about what this school has done in North America and especially in Canada. Did you see yourself like where you are now, or for you was it just a little passage? I'll go learn martial arts. I'll be like my brother. I'll be like my cousins. I'll evolve, and pretty much that's it.
It was more. I'll be honest with you. It was more. I was very passionate about Taekwondo. I used to train even from a young age. I was always at the school. Like, I remember when I was really young, I had gone to some tournament. I don't remember what it was, and I had very great mentors that at Taekwondo. There was many champions that were there that you learned a lot from them. Eh? And the truth is, learned a lot from them in different ways. And my father-in-law the most, but there's been many teachers. Grandmaster Serge Langlois, Grandmaster Remo Murat, Grandmaster Trevor Brown. There was Ashley Castellaris, Ferrar Clervaux, many champions that went through Chong Lee Taekwondo. That Grandmaster Jersey Long, Grandmaster Dal Hennigan, and these people. When you're with them and you're with all these people, but the main people that I my training partner for many years, Brian Ichkan, like, I mean, we were in Taekwondo, we were like brothers in the sense of you both spit blood every day and day out. I mean, as far as in the training, intense like this, giving everything. But something, it for me, it was more a passion. It was never like I never felt it was work. I really enjoyed it, and I
Yeah.
still do to this point. I'll be honest with you. The training part and the competing part was that was the part that I really loved. And the part today that is more being able. Sorry about that. Let me just lower that. Let me just. Sorry. Sorry. Let me just. Yeah. And is the passion. The passion for me has been there, and the passion teaching, helping others be the best they can, and especially when I see the kids. No joke. That not only, okay, for sure, you like them to succeed in Taekwondo as far as being better, being amazing, and having confidence, having a great attitude, because they'll take that with them the rest of their life.
Yeah.
When you see somebody, the best employee, for example, what is he? Somebody that he works really hard. He's very polite. He gives his best, very confident. Whatever you tell him, he's gonna do his all. He trusts you, you trust him. That's a team loyalty. And some of the best athletes I've had over the years, when you believe in them and they believe in you, oof, these kids go so far.
But
You know.
but it's important that you mention the attitude, because obviously, I'm assuming in your field as well, but obviously in mine, you can meet the best people in any field, right? Like they're the top, but if their attitude sucks, man, it just
Oh yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't mean nothing. Something, the medals, my father-in-law told me one thing a long time ago, and the medals mean nothing. Because
Yeah,
he goes, if a guy has a bad attitude, what is it? Okay,
yeah,
fine, you have a medal around your neck, but you're a jerk.
yeah,
You know, and for me, it's the respect is, I will never expect I'll never accept that from my students, not to respect, first of all, their parents, first of all, their family. Listen, even if somebody came from not a good family, you got to respect your parents. You got to respect where you came from. Even if they made mistakes in the past, you got to respect them.
yeah.
I don't know. I was taught that from my parents, and you got to respect other people. And I've tried my best. I'm not sure if as a human being, do we all react perfectly, but I've always tried my best to. I've always cared about people, and I've tried my best to go above and beyond to help my students.
Right.
Sometimes they see it, sometimes they don't. The ones that have seen it, it's great. If they didn't, and as long as I see them go on a good path, you don't see them, you don't read about them in the newspaper or something one day, in a bad situation. Oof, I feel like that my part. I've helped their parents. When you usually, I believe, a person, if they have three key people in their lives, their parents, could be a teacher, and it could be a gym teacher, a taekwondo teacher, it could be an martial art teacher, that are saying positive. When you have like three people, it goes in that message.
Right.
And that's why I believe, especially in martial arts, we focus on, we tell kids to respect, to give their all. And as far as we tell it, like, should be told, if they don't do well, they should be told, hey, you didn't do well. You didn't do well. You got to do better.
Yeah,
And that's not bad, because medals. Sometimes when kids are younger and you give them a medal just to help them build a bit of confidence, it's good. But as they get older, that's not good,
yeah.
because it's a false. It's a sense of entitlement, and I believe people should. If you lose, well, it's okay. Take responsibility for it.
And get better.
Yeah, my father-in-law taught me. I'll just say a fast one. I remember one time when I was young, my father-in-law, I won the tournament. I felt so good, right? You come out and you win, and he goes to me, congratulations, and you come out, your first place. I don't know what it was, some kind of provincial or something. And he goes to me at that time. I think it was I'm not sure if I was 19 or 20 or something. And he goes to me, very good. He goes, your counter back kick is 0. I was in shock. I was in shock because
right when you win. Right when you win.
he saw I didn't. The guy was rushing, but I was using my back leg and cutting him and using other techniques. Well, he saw the opening was open for really the counter back kick.
Yeah.
It was like, and he saw it.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that he said that. It bothered me. But you know something? You know what I did once I got back? I started working on it.
Of course.
And 6 months later, there was another event, another tournament that, I mean, I had some other tournaments before that, but that event, I won again. And the way I won, I used a lot the counter back kick. And I remember he came up to me after and he goes, "Congratulations." He goes, "Now you have a counter back kick."
Yeah.
And it locked in my brain that I didn't see it until much later, but I understand it now. It's important that people tell you as it is, because my parents, my brother, my sister, they were very direct. And sometimes you don't like to hear that, but you gotta hear it.
Yeah.
Because when people love you, yes, they'll be there for you. They will be there for you. If somebody puts you down and says you're a loser, you're gonna amount to nothing, that person you should never listen to. If a person tells you, listen, you're doing this and you gotta do better, you should not be upset.
Yeah.
You should take this feedback, constructive feedback, and you should do something about it. And I believe the best athletes do that. And they don't take it personally. They take it in and they do that. And that's, there's a lot of great, and the ones that don't, they're still great too. Don't get me wrong, but they will never be as great as the ones that take feedback, because the reality is they've done studies on that. Even with military, athletes, the people that are able to take in information, make the adjustments quickly, and go forward right away, those ones are the ones that survive or improve quickest.
Yeah.
And if a person's always arguing with that, it actually delays the progression.
Right.
My progression came quickly when I myself was very invested in myself, was really studying what I had to improve, plus use the knowledge of the people around me to advance.
Right.
Then you have like 10 minds helping you instead of just one mind.
Right.
And my brother, like, for example, I'll give you one example. My brother, he saw it one time. I remember one time I had been, I felt I had been ripped off at nationals. It took me 8 years to win. And after that, I had, medaled 12 times and I won 8 times at nationals, and medaled internationally and everything too. But before that, we try to put it on something else. Oh, it's because of that. It's actually because of yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, you got to take responsibility for it, own up to it, really analyze yourself, analyze your tools, analyze your strategies, your tactics, your mindset, and your physical abilities, your flexibility, your strength, your speed. All these things come into play. And then when you analyze that, not only in Taekwondo, whatever sport, if they all have the same dynamic. And if you analyze that, oof, you're going to reach your goal. You're going to be the top of your sport if you keep doing that. And, for me, that's the part. I enjoy seeing athletes, but the thing that I enjoy the most is seeing people go on the good path. When I see my students not in trouble in the future, good people, and that gives me the most pleasure. I feel I've done my job, because that for sure is, if a guy has gold medal and then you hear he killed 10 people or something like that, you're going to be like, oh my God, what happened to this person?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for that's my goal for my students, and for us to create that positive environment that people can become amazing athletes, and at whatever age, and around a good environment, like no swearing and positive. Everybody's can slip out and swear sometimes, but the truth is, if you're in that environment all the time, it can get down.
Right. For someone that grew up in Park X, obviously Chong Lee Taekwondo was a very popular thing, right? I mean, it was nearby. A lot of the kids in Park X were at that school as well. But I never really grasped the magnitude of this school until I started working in politics, and still until the time that you came to us and you invited us to one of the events, and then we started working together on some different projects. And I remember the annual tournament that you guys hosted at Claude Robillard. And that's when I really realized, what the hell, this is way huge. Way huger than I ever thought, right? People coming from all over the world to compete. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, how big is this? I honestly thought for the longest time that it's a local, martial arts school, and that was about it. And then you explained to me that there was no Taekwondo before Chong Lee Taekwondo.
Exactly. My father-in-law has done more for Taekwondo in Canada than anybody else. Nobody can ever replace him. Nobody can ever be in his how can I say? I mean, when you bring it here, you created more national champions and international champions than anyone before. How can I say? It was considered to be the best school in the whole in the world.
Yeah.
They had gotten awards, certificates from the World Taekwondo Federation, and
What's the story? I'm sure that your father-in-law probably told you how that happened. How did it start? I mean, he just arrives and says, "Look, I'm going to open a taekwondo school." I mean, what's
no,
the story?
he actually came to the States first, where he met his first wife, my wife's mom, France Tremblay, and later on they when they met there they started dating, and later on they got married. They had children, two children, Carl and Sheila, and when they and his wife actually, I asked her mom. I go, oh, what? Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, just kind of yeah, okay. I wasn't seeing you for a second. And I asked her, I go, how did it happen that Master Lee, started the school? And she asked him, she goes, what do you know? What do you do? Like, what do you know very well? Because he was working different jobs, and she knew that he knew Taekwondo, and she goes, what do you know? Like, and he trained, but she didn't understand the magnitude of that. And he said, I do Taekwondo. He goes, that's one thing that he was very good at. And she goes, then we're going to do that. So she helped him a lot to when you have that support from your wife
For
to do
sure.
that,
Yeah.
and and she helped him with that, and they started the school, and within a couple of decades the school had risen to world round, where it was world renowned, and there's many, for sure there's students there that and masters that helped my father-in-law, and they will always be a huge part of it. There are pioneers there. There's some of one of his first students, and Stan and Ray Nickel and Serge Langlois, and different people that were on his side, and but he is the founder. He's the one that taught them, and
How
he's
was
the
it?
one.
I don't know if you guys ever had this discussion, but how was it back then with the other martial arts in Canada or in Quebec? Like karate or whatever
Oh,
else.
back then it was like, I even went to tournaments when I was younger. That it was a mix. It was kung fu, karate, taekwondo, and the thing is with they would mix them, because before the Olympics came in, taekwondo was introduced in the Olympics in 1988.
Right.
And before that, like all martial arts, everybody thought they were, their style was the best. But at the end of the days, everybody's a martial artist. All martial arts are great,
Hmm.
all of them, because they bring out the best in people. Taekwondo, for example, it means, Tai Quan is the hand, Tai is the feet, Do is the way of life. Okay, and it's a way of discovering yourself through through kicking and punching and fighting.
Hmm.
And Taekwondo is known for that, for striking, for kicking. It's considered to be like, whenever you see a movie and you see those amazing kicks, that is
Hmm.
Taekwondo.
Hmm.
That is Taekwondo. Those kicks, when you see fluidity in the movement and those flexibility and all that kicking, that was the part that actually pulled me in, because that was during Bruce Lee, when those movies came out, and all those kind of stuff. That really, I remember when I watched those movies with my dad, and Chuck Norris at those times and everything. It really, Bill Superfo Wallace and different people that promoted martial arts at that time, and 60s and 70s, that it was really starting to grow into itself. And for me, and my cousins too, when they were into it, and my brother and everything, it pulled me into this world, and I just wanted to join. And I remember it wasn't far from me, so I passed outside a few times by myself. And the first time I went to go up, and I was kind of shy, and I didn't go because I heard the screaming. When they're very intense when they scream in Taekwondo, right?
Right.
The expression, the key is energy. When you scream, let it out, and it's almost like your parents when they scream at you, right? And they hit you, and it hurts more than if they don't scream. Just kidding. But the thing is, it's more intense, right? When people scream and you see that passion, that energy, it's energy, right? And key up in Taekwondo is key up, right? It's an energy, it's flowing through you, and you get more power. Actually, then scientific studies, when somebody hits something and without screaming, And then with it, without it, for example, one scientific study that was done, Discovery Channel, remember, he hit something, some object, they measured it was 1,500 pounds of pressure. With the key up, it went up to 2,000 pounds,
Right.
which is phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
500 pounds more pressure,
Yeah.
and with just more with the screen.
Right.
So because it touches a part of your brain, the adrenaline. When you scream really loud, that's why people get strong when they scream, and when they're usually when they're angry, right? It touches a part of your adrenaline in your brain, which releases that, and it gives you more power, more strength. So yeah, so basically that
I remember you telling me a story in the beginning where I'm assuming everything was kind of regrouped in the same category, and you were going to all these tournaments, and everyone from Chong Lee that had practiced and studied Taekwondo was just kicking ass. It wasn't
oh,
even a competition.
they were known. They were known. The school was known. Like even through all the generations. Like I mean, we've had many through or like every time you have a team, right? They after one point people start retiring. They get older. They have families. They have university. So you have those rare individuals. Like I stopped competing at 37, which was actually pretty. I wanted to keep going, but when I had my second daughter, it was just a bit too intense.
Right.
And we had moved the club. It was just a bit more. I wanted to focus to help more the athletes at that time and my family. So my wife, I mean, she's always been great with that, and you know, it's important to acknowledge the people in your family, my brother, my sister, my parents. You can never take away that support that you've had over the years. I've had some great friends, my friend Dave, and my friend Ryan too from Taekwondo, even another great friend of mine, Mario, and some people that are always there for you. Master Lemon, me and him were teammates. He was my teacher too, and other people that helped you a lot. You have to give credit to these people. These people that helped you a lot. But the person that helped me the most would be my father-in-law over the years, because
So this school was gaining like this reputation quickly, like
it
at
has it. It has the reputation. It's not only gaining; it's had it from day one. He really That's where his students shined out, because when we used to go to events, like karate uniforms were white, kung fu uniforms were black, and my father-in-law he put gray. He wanted something different, and they got that reputation from that time in the early 60s. They were known for that. And then later, as Taekwondo transitioned into like a world championships and to Olympics was very good for Taekwondo in a sense of for the sports safety, for the training methodology which was improved through there's a lot of training methodology that has been applied through Taekwondo that made Taekwondo much more efficient as far as movements, studies that were done on how a kick could be more powerful, more quicker, different studies that were done for that. And that's why I find Taekwondo evolved a lot over the last few years. Taekwondo, I mean, it became they had the electronic systems that came into play,
Right.
and there's been some issues with that. But at the same time, if I look at it from an objective point of view, there's good and bad in that. There's good in the sense of like there's more fairness, and there was other issues with some fairness in the sense of like sometimes when you had bad referees that maybe they didn't see something, or maybe purposely didn't see something, which can happen. It happens in all sports, and I think that's the part that affected sports sometimes, and even Taekwondo. And that was the part that I, as an athlete, had difficulty. I will never accept unfairness. I believe when a sport is athlete centered, coach centered, and participant centered, you will always do the right thing when you think first for the athlete, then for the coaches, and then for all the other members. When you put politicians or presidents in front of paying for athletes and supporting the members and supporting coaches, because without coaches you have no clubs, without clubs you have no taekwondo. So you got to support the coaches, you got to support them, not and that's important. And I believe when we have this methodology of going athlete centered, coach centered, member base centered, and and always being there to make sure things are done properly, that there's no this kind of thing you've seen in a lot of sports, and people sometimes in other sports. It's happened in taekwondo, happened in other sports, that there's been sometimes fishy things that happen. But at the same time, there's been a lot of good that happened, and I like to focus more on the good. And I feel that Taekwondo in Canada is on our good path, and in Quebec especially too. There's been a lot of things. I was part of the Taekwondo Federation here in Quebec, and we've done a lot of good over the last. I was one of the executive committee, and I'm in Montreal. I'm president of the Montreal Taekwondo Association too, and I'm always involved, and sometimes more, sometimes a bit less. But I always like when things are, especially for the athletes. I believe in always supporting the athletes because I know the sacrifice, and the coaches. It's important to support them both, and that it goes in a good direction of fair. Everything has to be fair.
Right.
There was one year, for example, I remember they did this weird criteria. Before it was if you win the tournament, you're on the national team, and the criteria was given first, and then you know what you have to do. And in one year, they gave a criteria based on something that was never even agreed upon before, and you saw six spots. We took it to court, to the sport court. I was part of on that committee, and they said it was not good, and they brought it back to, and that was not a good decision that they made, and they brought it back to the. They didn't reverse it for, I think, for political reasons, but it was not good. It was very bad and very divisive. That was a very bad thing. That was, I find, for Taekwondo. The way it should always be fair, that any person, regardless of their economic background, has a chance
Right.
to make the team. And now they have world rankings, which is very good. That's another way to make the team. And I believe with the two systems combined, if you give people, you have those people that come from poor backgrounds that can't go to all these international events. If they're so gifted and they beat a person that's going to all the international events, well, they should be on the team, right? So, so I believe that the national events should be the person that wins that should be on the team, but they should also give another spot for through the world ranking, which they do already, and that way it's the most fair. It's important to get the person that deserves to be there, and fairness for me. Even if my athlete was a great athlete, worked so hard, but if they don't win that event that's supposed to be won, well, they don't deserve to be on the team.
Right.
And I think some coaches cannot accept that. And I personally, I don't agree with them, because the thing is, if you got to be fair, regardless if you're athlete or anybody else. And if you're fair, something for the athletes and the coaches, well, the sport will always go in a good direction. Because you can't say, "Oh, my athletes like this." Because if you think of for your athletes only, forget about it. You're being unjust in that way. It has to be fair for everybody. You have to think of the other guy's student as if it was your own. What if it was my student? Would that be fair for him?
Right.
And if it's not, well, that criteria is not good. You got to think about, for something that's fair, that everybody has a good opportunity, enough advance notice, but I feel we're on that path now for Taekwondo Canada and even for Taekwondo Quebec. I mean, except for the COVID this year, it kind of threw things off. For it's a lot of Olympians had it very rough, and I feel for them, because I was on Olympic selection team in 2004, it's a lot of sacrifice for people to reach that level and to not be going to the Olympics. I feel for them,
Right.
and I hope it works out. I hope they're able to have it later on for them, because these kids have sacrificed a lot, and their coaches, and wherever there's a few people that are able. One girl that qualified from Canada, and she deserves to go this year. So we'll see what happens. It was her dad was her coach, and I was very happy for them. He's a good guy, and I like to see when good people
Succeed.
are able to succeed. Yeah. And even if they're not good, as sometimes you see somebody and you might say, hey, he's not a nice guy, but he won. But I believe God has a plan for them too. Like when I was younger, I remember there's some people I couldn't understand. I'd be like, how could this guy win? He's such a jerk or something. But as you grow older, you realize, thank God he won, because he might have been a drug dealer on the street later on. He might have been, because you could see that attitude. And sometimes these kids, we don't understand, but I believe God has a plan for all of us. And
It's interesting that you're mentioning this, because we've been seeing recently, and it's not recent. I mean, recently we've been seeing in the news, which is unfortunate that now it is only been given that attention, but this has been going on for numerous years. There's this eminent problem that is related to to gangs and to gun violence. We're seeing it now, but it's always existed. I mean, the kids that grew up in Park X have witnessed certain things, and not only in Park X, Saint Michel. Like there's areas in Montreal that have been problematic for many years, and unfortunately now we seem to be waking up, but regardless of that, because that's just political. But with respect to what your mission is, these circumstances are more often than not affecting children. These are kids that are abandoning school, or they're leaving their families, or they're finding their cause into these groups, right? And of course, there's a lot of psychology behind that. There's a lot of reasons why they feel like they need to kind of drift into this path. And now that you're mentioning this person, where you're happy he won, because he might have ended up somewhere in a gang, or dealt drugs or whatever, and he found that path through martial arts to give himself a better purpose. How are you guys dealing with this reality? And I'm sure it's you probably know this better than anyone. It's not now. I mean, this has been ongoing for many years and
Yeah.
decades now. How is this locally, and how are you guys dealing with it?
Well, I mean, the Chong Lee Taekwondo event, the Zidno de la Drogue, me and my wife were speaking about it a long time ago, and we wanted to do something like for the community. And we spoke with my father-in-law, and we talked about, I go, it's important we do something for the, against the drugs, Zidno la Drogue. And he goes, yeah, well, it sounds like a great idea. So we went forward with that, and we put the Zidno la Drogue. All the kids got that medal when we our event here in Quebec has always been the biggest event for Chong Lee Taekwondo, the Chong Lee Cup. My father-in-law, I mean, he's had this event since the 60s, 70s. It's progressed till now, and he's always had these championships and had teams from the States and coming here and from all over the world and stuff, and competing, you name it. And the thing is, what's important is that for example, we used to put in the banners. We had the police. One of our students here at the club, like, he's a police officer, and he saw that what we're trying to do, and he got the police involved. And then when you guys came into the picture, and I remember there was Mary Darrows too. That she was a provincial, and we got even a federal involved in against it. And I believe that listen, I've known people that have done, recreational drugs, and it wouldn't go any farther. But the reality is the majority of the time it does go further, and it starts as a recreational. I never smoked a cigarette. I never that did any drugs in all of my life, and I was lucky. It was because of Taekwondo. I'll be honest with you, because when you're training like that, I was like, as if coming, Park X, I didn't see it as a bad neighborhood, but at the same time, there's certain areas that that things were going on. I didn't see when I was younger because maybe my parents were very protective, and I didn't see that part because I always saw the good side. But in every neighborhood, even there will always be areas that are not as good. And Park X has always been a great area. I find people, hardworking families, great people, family oriented. And, I've met so many great people from Park Extension. And I live in Laval now with my kids, but my mother still lives in Park Extension. I'm there almost all the time too, because I'm next door and I pass by there all the time. But it's an area that needs help, and a lot of the kids, sometimes they start into hash, marijuana, and then it's cocaine, and then it's heroin, it progresses, right? It progresses into other things. So it goes into those, and when people reach that point, he was in my high school, and I saw him many years later on the street, and I was like in shock. The guy was, he looked like he was a heroin addict.
Yeah.
But in high school, such a good-looking kid. And sometimes you see the guy go down in this direction, and I've seen a few people like along those years that I saw them. You've heard stories in the newspaper, and you saw this person get shot or that person that, and you're like, this is. And we knew we had to do something about it. And my father-in-law had saved many people through Taekwondo. Many people told me personally that if it wasn't for my father, they would have been dead, my father-in-law. And us verbalizing it. My father-in-law did this, through all the years, and myself, when I was involved in, since I've been involved with Taekwondo and the teaching, for over 30 years, I've been involved in that too. But when people come and tell you that, it touches you,
Yeah.
when they say that. And myself, uh, when we verbalize that, saying "Zit no la drugs," say no to drugs. Taekwondo kicking the drugs out of this world. We push this message for a reason, because I truly believe that when people, live a good life, especially now, this last few years, I've had a lot of reflection on everything, and for me, I want to be the best version of myself. That's
I,
it,
I
and
remember
I believe everybody does.
I remember having this discussion, back in the day, where you were trying to kind of have a bigger outreach in the schools, in the local schools, and the different, little community centers, uh, so that you can attract more kids to follow kind of uh, into the path that you went through, and kind of help that society avoid having these kids end up on the streets. Have you done anything with that? I mean, has that evolved at all?
Yeah, we've done different projects. We've done projects as self-defense classes, and some of the schools that have got kids interested. Some of them came to our club. We've given talks in different places, speaking to kids. Um, but it's something that you always have to keep working on. It's not something that's fixed. But I would like to have more connection for that with the schools, because the thing is, our school is world renowned, and I believe that I want to continue. What my father-in-law began, because he's the true founder of Taekwondo, and even this, he took a lot of time away from his family, his first wife and his second wife. They had he took a lot of time for Taekwondo, from his immediate family, from his kids, uh, to to give to others. He sacrificed a lot for that, and for myself, I do want to do the same, but the only that always, I'll be as much as I can for my kids there. That's why I try to keep my kids involved. They train, they help me at the club. I try to have them involved a lot. My wife is involved a lot. We both try to be involved, because like this, we're all in the same boat. We're going forward in a positive way.
What do you think is missing, or what do you think can be done better, to make this society a little bit safer for the kids, to make sure that they don't resort that often to gangs and to the street?
I believe sports in general is very important. You gotta have kids in sports. If kids have a lot of free time, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
They're gonna start walking around, hanging around. Then they're gonna get fed up. They have hormones. They have so much energy. They'll start smashing things, not because they want to. The hormones make kids aggressive, not because they want to. It's the testosterone. Sometimes I remember there was a study that was done that showed that kids, when the hormones, when they go through puberty, boys and girls, they just start saying no. You say yes, they say no, and they don't know why. They start to, they're finding themselves for sure, but it's the hormones too. And sometimes this rebellion can pull the kid in a bad direction. And the kid is, if they have an outlet to release this, a sport. And the good thing is with martial art, right? You're telling them, respect your parents, you know, fix your bed, say please, say thank you. Does it mean they're gonna follow it all the time? No, but when they hear it, they'll keep going in that direction. And I believe by doing that, we're really helping community. A kid, listen, if a kid fixes his room, fixes his bed, that's one of the first things that make them start feeling good about themselves.
Yeah.
There's a nice video that's on the internet from a while ago that this general talks about that. How important it is. That's why they fix their bed every morning. You see the soldiers, because the thing is, you start your day off great, right? And at the same time, having a good attitude, respecting your parents. Our parents give everything for us, and even if they didn't, you got to honor your parents. You got to honor your family, and it doesn't matter. I tell my kids that a lot. It doesn't matter what other people do. It matters what you do. People are nice to you. It doesn't give you the right to be not nice. It doesn't mean you're going to be stepped on. You got to be assertive and respect yourself. But at the same time, two negatives don't make a positive.
All right.
you know and I think kids, when they understand that it depends on who they are, and they start having a good attitude, and you see that in the sport, as even as an athlete. I never accepted my athletes to throw down their headgear, or to do something that it could, they can get angry and even push somebody or something. But it's important that they're told. It's important that they're told, and that's okay, because even if they make that mistake, as long as they I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But if we learn from it, we become better, as a human being. We're going to contribute better to society. And that's what I believe. Taekwondo, for me, in the beginning, was just about fighting. I loved the fighting. I was fighting all the time, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed winning. I enjoyed competing. And, as I grew older, I realized it's not even against the opponent. It's
Mhm.
against ourselves.
Right.
And once you understand that, you're never mad at the other guy. You know that if you do what you have to do in there, you've won.
Right.
And the times you didn't, it's because of yourself, and just own it and grow from it. And that's a true athlete. And I didn't know that right away. But as long as people learn that, and if they learn that, they'll respect their parents, respect their coaches, respect their teachers. Because if you don't respect even your parents, probably the next thing is you're not going to respect your coaches.
Mhm.
If you don't respect your coaches, you're not going to respect your teammates. If you don't respect your teammates, you're not going to respect nobody. So I find it's almost like a whole thing. And the kids, like you said, the reason I find a big reason that kids get in trouble sometimes is sometimes it can be a broken family, and they don't have anybody to look up to. Sometimes when they're in a martial art, well, they have somebody to look up to. They have somebody to aspire to, or it could be another sport. But the good thing, like I said, Taekwondo has I find its methodology, courtesy, integrity, perseverance, indomitable spirit, loyalty. All these things are hugely important, and control yourself. It's very hard. Even my father-in-law, I remember he said something, before he passed away. I remember we had his 50th, many years before that. Sorry, it was the 50th anniversary and of the school, and he said that our ego is the thing to keep in check. And it's true. A lot of people, when the ego, they lose control. And having control of ourselves, this is huge. We gotta if you can control yourself, well, you can be positive. I think it's the most important tenet in Taekwondo, control de soi. Because if you control yourself, you'll have indomitable spirit. You'll be perseverant. You'll be polite. You'll have integrity. You'll have everything. So as we grow older, I find to control ourselves is important. Meditating, uh, being positive, controlling your self-talk. I've read a lot about that over the last 30 years, and for me, that's hugely important. Even today, I find it's important to keep tabs on how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to other people, and our philosophy. What we want out of our life. Me, what I want is to be the best dad I can be, best husband. Today, this is what I want to be. Best teacher, best at everything that I do, and to be the best I can be as in my capacity. And does it mean I'll be it? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But at the same time, if you set that vision high, you will go there. And I always aspire to be. I set my my sights high, and even if you're discouraged, you got to keep going forward. And if you believe, you will achieve. It's just a matter of time.
How much do you think that this mindset contributes to the success? And obviously, in terms of success, and I want to go over the stuff that you've achieved, because it's a pretty long list here. But I'm curious to know. I mean, how often or how frequent is it to see people achieve these things? I mean, first of all, off the bat, I mean, we got to note here that you're a recipient of the World Taekwondo Hall of Fame. You're also within the Korean Martial Arts Masters Hall of Fame. You've made the national team 12 times. You've been a national champion 8 times. In 1999, you were the best fighter MVP in Canada. 2003, you were a team captain of the Canada team. You're an international medalist, obviously, U.S. Open silver medalist, twice Pan American medalist. Um, Hold on a second. Let me get this here. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, 2004, you were part of the Olympic selection team. Um, you were a torchbearer. I remember that in 2004. You made the run. I was there. I actually saw you. Senior Canadian national team coach, junior Canadian national team coach. You are a grandmaster, seventh Dan in Taekwondo. You've trained so many athletes to achieve gold medals and to even make it to these championships. I mean, these are huge accomplishments over a span of whatever 30 years, 30, 40 years that you've been
almost
doing this.
almost 40 years. Yeah.
How important is mindset in achieving this? Or do I mean the people that have achieved this, or even more? I don't know. I mean, do they fit into that mold? Like you need to have this self control. You need to kind of surpass yourself to a certain extent in order to achieve these things.
I think it's relatable to everything. That's why I told you before, like the greatness, everybody has it. Like, you know, in every way. I believe everybody has this greatness, unless somebody has some physical or mental disability, which they have their greatness in their own way still. Eh? I I helped somebody that has a bit of a difficulty, a child that, it's, he's a very good guy, and but at the same time, some things are a little more difficult. But he's achieved so much over the last so many years. I've been helping him, and I usually train him once a week before. And I mean, during the COVID, it's been harder for these things. But at the same time, I think the mindset is huge, really. And everybody has the capacity to do it. Some people do it. Listen, I chose to do it in Taekwondo, but I'm no more special than somebody that is an ebonist and decided to do a perfect table. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
Everybody has this mindset. The only thing is, we are blessed to have it sometimes shown up in a gold medal. But other people, the other guy's a great dad. He sacrificed everything for his kids. For
right.
me, that's a world champion right there.
What's
So,
what's
you
the
know,
highest rank achieved in Taekwondo? I mean, you're a grandmaster, seventh Dan. Is there anyone that has achieved?
my father-in-law was ninth dan. His master was 10th dan. And as we get older, it becomes, it's the philosophy, the time, the experience. A lot of people, they imagine magical floating stuff and everything, but everybody's a human being. Listen, we're able to do amazing things through taekwondo because of the training through all the years. But it's normal as people get older, uh, things change, the body changes. Can you be as strong? Can people still do it? Yes, I believe they can at any age if they really wanted to and they put in the thing. But there is things that do change with the body as we get older, and less sleep, less recovery. These things do affect people. People get older. I've had a few injuries from taekwondo, but at the same time, for me, I know that if I put in the time, we can do amazing things. Even I put in a lot of time for taekwondo. I still train a lot, but before I was training like it could be from 5 to 8 hours a day, like an animal. Later on when you have kids, I mean, you're trying to morning, train later when you teach, trying to do a bit here, trying to do a bit here. You're trying to spread it around your life. Before it was just like blocks of time that you would consecrate, and everything else was around that school, you know, uh, courses, different things, education. So, but I believe that education is important for kids. That it's important that they get their university degree. All the students that I have, I always make it. It's important that they, they're going to commit to taekwondo. They should commit, but they should also at the same time always be able to do that. I was able to do that, to work and to go to school, and my friends too that finished university too, and the students that I had that did the same, they were all able to do it. There's no excuse. They got
Exactly.
it. They should do that, because a person, when they're more educated, they make better choices, and they become, you know, when you're also exercising your brain. When the more you read, the more you think, the more you read. That's you're training the muscle of your brain, right? So this is very important. And for me as a teacher, it's really important that the kids, they finish that, because then they've succeeded in life. Also, it's important that they succeed in life and in martial art. For me, martial art is a lifelong journey. I'll be doing this till the end of days, right? But at the same time, everything else is important. Everything important. Family's hugely important to me. My immediate family, my cousins, my brothers, my sisters, my parents, my mom, and this is for me, that's the priority. And when you're there for them, they've always been there for me. The people that care about me have always been there for me, and I will always be there for them. And that's it.
Let's wrap it up. Just to close off, what's currently underway? I know that you guys had to face challenges like everyone else, pretty much in your industry. But what are the plans now? What are the goals? What are you guys working on now for the school?
Like for us, I mean, we've been doing the Zoom. We do the Zoom classes online, which is, it's for me. I love to see people in person. That energy in the person is unquestionably the most important to me. I love to see people, but at the same time, we're all adapting to this. We will adapt to it. We have no choice, and I hope that that as we're going forward with society, I hope that the government focuses on more at on the hospitals and at the CHLDs, because like 99%, 99% of the people that are passing away are from those two places. It's a no-brainer. Start hiring more doctors, start hiring more nurses, and start taking care of the old people and protecting them and giving them, have people buy suits when they go see their parents. My father passed away in February before this COVID, from the Alzheimer's. But it hurt me after. Later on, I was kind of happy that he didn't pass away during after. I mean, I love my father to live forever, like even after, but I wouldn't have liked for him to be alone.
Right.
And I feel the hospitals, they're not doing a good. The government is not doing a good job as far as what is put things in place that people can be protected, but at the same time understand that a lot of kids are committing suicide because they have no sports, they're starting to have mental issues. There's been no deaths in schools, so the government is not. I don't believe that they're really looking at this from a good perspective. You got to go to the root of the problem, and they're not mentioning. I believe that they should mention where the deaths are coming from. The
Yeah.
deaths are coming from older
Well,
people.
there's definitely very little transparency, and there was articles that came out last week stating that the public health notices that were given to the government weren't really applied, or they were uh, they were more strict or less strict on other measures. In any case, I mean, since the very beginning, they've been saying that they've been following the advice of the health experts, and we just found out last week that it wasn't necessarily the case. But I mean,
Exactly.
whatever. Politics aside, I mean, back to the school.
It's more for the kids, that I just see the suicide rates going up, and that bothers me, because when I hear about kids that maybe that don't do martial arts and they're taking their lives, that gets me upset.
Yeah.
Because I can't accept
But
that.
like
I
you said,
have
it's
kids
not only
too.
martial arts. I mean, it's any sport. I mean,
Exactly,
everything has
exactly.
pretty much halted now, right? There's no soccer, there's no hockey, there's no organized sport in general.
Yeah.
Um, but for you guys going forward now, is there anything in the works? What's the plan? Are you working on anything going forward?
For the reality is right now, I listen. Everybody's taking a hit with this. It's we could say it's not, nothing's going to be easy for sure, but we got to be positive and we got to go forward. I'm looking at it positively, and that's how I see it. I mean, for me, I'm going to keep continuing the school, and I'm going to find a solution for whatever's in front. And at the same time, I just for me I just believe that they should put the priority of people's mental health and their the health. They've shown that studies have shown, scientific studies, that people that do sports are not getting COVID. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't add up, some things. And I believe that the government has to be more logical and focus on things that help, as long as the precautions are taken. I was spraying everything. We had bought in sprayers, putting on things, separators. People, at that time, they, if they want to wear their mask now, if they want have to, we would wear that. And it's important if people follow that. If they had symptoms, they're not allowed to train. This is important to follow that, but at the same time, you got to help people to get back in shape, because if their immune system is high, people won't get sick. And for me, as far as we continue the Zoom classes, there's going to be more programs we're going to be adding for sure. There's some projects that we have coming up in the club, and for us, when hopefully when this thing subsides, we have a lot of clubs that are with us. Chong Lee Taekwondo, it's a great school and a great community, a great family. There's hundreds of clubs around Canada that are part of our organization, and that will continue to be. And there's many masters that have called me, and they want to continue to, you know, to us to go forward, and they know that what we went through when my father passed away and my father-in-law passed away, it was hard times. But I now it's only I want to go forward and more positively and united with for our clubs and that are with us, and at the same time to help Taekwondo in general. For me, it's just I love seeing all the clubs do well. Because more martial art clubs, more people we help. It doesn't matter if when they're affiliated with us, great, even better. And if they're not, great too. As long as it's going in a positive direction, kids are Taekwondo is helping people. Wow, it's amazing. I love to see people progress. Parents, when you see parents training with their kids, you see parents in great shape, adults doing Taekwondo, not necessarily for the competition, but you see them weight loss, amazing shape, positive. I have so many parents, they tell me, thank you that you continue the classes on Zoom. They go, it's my mental sanity, because they have children, they have a lot of stresses, a lot of responsibilities. And when I see people going forward positively, that's the goal. And for me, for my kids, my wife, for us, is to continue, to go forward with the business, and to continue going a positive way. As a martial art, for me, martial art has always been I'm old school, and like my father-in-law was very open-minded. He had like a beginner's white belt mentality. He was always learning, and me too. I try to always learn. I like to learn more. I don't like to. I don't know everything. There's always more to learn. If somebody thinks they know everything, they know nothing.
Yeah.
Because their mind is they're capped. They can't go anymore. So I find the beginner mentality will always learn more, and that's my mindset when it comes to Taekwondo. And to be positive, even if things don't go wrong. Last year it was tough, like I said, with my dad, but it's also to learn from that and to become better and appreciate more, like with all this. And those projects, I want to continue when we get back on that with, I'll come and see you too when it comes against the drugs, because I think this is hugely important. George, I'd love to continue to be part of that, because for me, I want to expand that, and I'd like to expand it into the schools in some capacity with the Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Get my champ.
Any way I can help,
Yeah,
man. I'll provide it.
I
It was
appreciate
great
it.
seeing you, buddy. It was great seeing you. Hopefully, this whole thing will end sooner than later. We'll be able to catch up in person, man.
George, you're great, and I want to thank you for all the years that you've been part of the movement against the drugs and everything, and you've gone above and beyond.
We we
Supported the
we
event.
did nothing. We did
No,
nothing.
no, you
We we,
did, and
we,
and you
we were
don't take
just
you
we
don't
were
you
just
don't take you don't take credit for it, but I'm telling you that you were great for that, and you're always a gentleman with us, and I really appreciate that. I'm very thankful to have met you and to continue to know you and stuff, and I appreciate everything you've done for that. Because when we help these kids, we're helping the future. It could be my kid or your kid, and if we continue like this, for me with those projects, it's going to go in a great direction.
beautiful.
So thank you again.
I
Thank you for
appreciate you,
everything.
buddy. I'll hope to see you soon. Take
You're the
care.
best, George. Take care of yourself, man, and thanks for everything. All the
Ciao.
best, buddy.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.